On a quiet November morning in 1980, the fishermen of Lake Peigneur, Louisiana, expected nothing more than an ordinary day on the water. The lake was calm, a mirror of silver glass, reflecting the cypress trees and morning sun. Beneath it, a salt mine, a labyrinth carved deep into the earth, had been running safely for decades, but within hours, this peaceful lake would vanish, swallowed whole. What happened at Lake Peigneur remains one of the strangest, most catastrophic engineering accidents ever recorded, when nature itself turned against man. Lake Peigneur was small, just about 1.5 miles wide, nestled in Iberia Parish, Louisiana. Beneath it lay the Jefferson Island Salt Mine, a 1,300-foot deep tunnel network where miners worked daily, extracting pure salt for industrial use. Above the surface, an oil drilling platform operated by Texaco had been set up to explore for crude oil. It was just another job site. Men drilling, engines humming, radios crackling with chatter. The drill had reached 200 feet below the surface, when suddenly, resistance. The bit struck something unexpected. A grinding noise echoed through the rig. Not rock, not oil, something else. And in that moment, a mistake, only inches wide, would set off a chain reaction that no one could stop. At 11:30 a.m., the Texaco drilling crew noticed their drill had become stuck. Pressure gauges spiked. Something had gone wrong beneath the surface. They tried to free the drill, reversing, then rotating. But the platform began to tremble. The water around them started to swirl, forming a small whirlpool. What they didn't know was that the drill had punctured the roof of the Jefferson Island salt mine below, connecting the freshwater lake to the massive salt cavern system. It was like stabbing a straw through the roof of an underground cave and pouring an entire lake inside. Within minutes, the whirlpool grew in size, dragging debris toward the center. The men on the platform realized the unimaginable. The lake was draining. As the whirlpool widened, the Texaco drilling rig, weighing over 1 million pounds, was pulled toward the center and swallowed whole. The crew barely escaped, jumping into boats and racing for shore, as the vortex devoured everything in its path. But the destruction was only beginning. The powerful suction created by the draining lake began to collapse. The mine tunnels below. Miners deep underground felt tremors. Walls cracking, ceilings groaning. They dropped their tools and ran for the elevators, climbing for their lives, as the tunnels filled with muddy water. Miraculously, all 55 miners escaped before the mine was completely submerged. Above ground, chaos reigned. The whirlpool had grown into a gaping hole, hundreds of feet wide. Boats, docks, trees, even 11 barges were being pulled into the spinning vortex. Like toys, witnesses watched in disbelief as the land itself was consumed. As the lake drained into the salt mine below, something unexpected happened. The massive inflow of water displaced air trapped in the mine's caverns, forcing it upward through the ground. The result? Explosive geysers of air and mud erupted across the surface of the lake, blasting through the water like volcanic vents. Residents miles away felt the earth shake. Power lines snapped. The roar of rushing water echoed through the bayou like thunder that wouldn't stop. And then, silence. In just 3 hours, the once beautiful Lake Peigneur had vanished, drained entirely into the earth. When the whirlpool finally subsided, what remained was unrecognizable. Where a shimmering lake had once been, there was now a massive crater, muddy, bubbling, and smoking from escaping air. The Jefferson Island mine was completely destroyed. Texaco's drilling rig and equipment, gone. 11 barges, a tugboat, acres of forest, and even parts of the island itself had been pulled underground. Miraculously, no one was killed. It was a disaster that defied logic. Millions of gallons of water gone, yet every human life spared. But the most astonishing twist was yet to come. In the days that followed, engineers and scientists stood in disbelief. The geological damage was immense. The salt mine was gone forever, but the void it left behind had changed. The local landscape in ways no one could predict. Lake Peigneur, once a shallow freshwater body, began to refill, but not from rain or rivers. Instead, water began flowing backward from the nearby Del Cambre Canal, which normally drained into the Gulf of Mexico. The flow reversed direction, creating a temporary 150-foot waterfall, the largest in Louisiana's history, as the Gulf poured salt water back into the crater. By the end of the week, the lake had returned, but it was no longer the same. The once freshwater lake had become a salty, brackish lagoon, a permanent scar on the landscape. When the disaster settled, the lawsuits began. Texaco and their drilling contractor, Wilson Brothers, were accused of miscalculating the location of the salt mine tunnels. The difference? Less than 200 feet. A tiny margin. In the drilling world, but catastrophic in this case. Texaco denied full responsibility, claiming their data had come from outdated mine maps. Eventually, a settlement was reached. Texaco paid $32 million to Diamond Crystal Salt Company for the destroyed mine, and $12.8 million to Live Oak Gardens, the botanical estate that had been partially flooded. But for the people of Louisiana, no amount of money could erase the memory of that day. The day an entire lake disappeared. Today, Lake Peigneur looks peaceful again. Fishermen cast their lines. Tourists visit the gardens nearby. But beneath the water lies the collapsed labyrinth of the old mine, a silent graveyard of machines, tunnels, and history. No one has ever explored the full depth of what remains below. The cavern system is unstable, dangerous, a place where light cannot reach. Some locals say that, on still nights, you can hear faint rumblings beneath the water, the echo of collapsing tunnels, deep in the earth. Whether that's true or not, one thing is certain. The Lake Peigneur disaster stands as a reminder of how fragile the line is between human ambition and nature's patience. In the span of a single afternoon, a small Louisiana lake taught the world a lesson in humility. With one drilling mistake, the ground opened, the water vanished, and a piece of history was rewritten. But from destruction came resilience. No lives lost, and a community forever changed. This is not just the story of a sinkhole. It's the story of man's miscalculation and nature's quiet revenge.